This is the inside of the 2021 Auto Sleeper Symbol Plus. If I firstly move to the main control panel, you will see that it's displaying the external temperature. Whenever we have this little picture of the sun just there, it's letting us know that the solar panel is active. The little lightning strike is letting us know that we are hooked up to mains electricity. It's then giving us the humidity in the middle and the time. We then have the internal temperature just on the right hand side. If we now press just here, we will then turn the 12-volt system on. We then have underneath that water pump on and off. We need the water pump on to get water out of the taps, flush the toilet and fill the boiler if it's been drained down. We next have water levels. So we have how much water is in the fresh tank and how much water is in the waste tank. And then we have power levels just here. So we have condition of leisure battery, condition of vehicle battery, the active current, and then we have the mains current and the solar current just there. And if we cycle, it will just go between the one above it as well. We then have internal lights on and off. These can then all be individually turned on and off on their own switches. The ones above my head are all just touch, so as soon as they've been turned off they will not turn on again until we touch them again. Next we have awning light on and off, and then we have battery selection. So at the moment we're using the leisure battery. We're now using the vehicle battery to power the back end of the van. Whichever battery you've selected on here is also the battery that's being charged by the mains supply. Lastly, we have the settings menu. So within this we have active battery and solar selection, etc. It's best to just leave it set on smart. So what will happen is they will just cycle after a few hours. So after a few hours, when being hooked up to the main supply, this will then cycle, and then the vehicle battery will be charged by it, and then the solar panel will switch to the leisure, and then they'll switch again and again and again. Beside it we have automatic tank fill. This needs to be on if we're using the whale filler on the outside of the van. It just makes the solenoid live. We then have tank heaters for the waste tank and the fresh tank. If you turn these on, they're then active, and if the external temperature then drops below about 3-4 degrees, they'll come on to avoid any frost damage occurring to the tanks. We then have lights that come on when we turn the 12-volt on. They're both off at the moment, but it just comes down to personal preference. Key beeps on and off, water level alarms on and off. The brightness of this screen and how quickly it times out when we're not touching it. Set the time and the date, and then we also have here the heater settings for the whale system. So we can either just control it manually just here, or we can also take it off manual and then put it into a timer mode, and then we go back to the beginning again. If we now come across to the whale control panel, you'll see we have water heating here and heating here, and as I begin to press the buttons they will illuminate until they eventually end back up at off. So if we start with the water heater, we have a little picture of a snowflake just there, which is its frost protection mode. So if there's water in the boiler but you don't necessarily want to be heating it, you can put it on this one just here, and if the temperature outside drops below about 3-4 degrees, it will just come on to avoid frost damage. We then have wavy lines, wavy lines represent mains electricity. I always round it up and I just call this about 1 kilowatt. We then have 2 wavy lines, so about 2 kilowatts. So you just pick dependent on the ampage of the site that you're on. We then have gas, and after that we have dual fuel. Dual fuel is extremely handy, especially in the winter months if you want hot water really quickly. So we have gas and mains at 1 and gas and mains at 2. Whenever we are consuming gas, a little flame will appear where my finger is here to let you know. If we now drop to the heating, very similar again, but we don't have obviously frost protection because it's heating. So we have 1 wavy line, which again is mains electricity, but this is literally set for after 500 watts. We then have 2 wavy lines, 1 kilowatt, 3 wavy lines, about 2 kilowatts. Again, we have gas on its own, and then we have the dual fuel just here. And again, whenever we're consuming gas, we will get a little flame. We control the temperature just here. This little moon here is what WOW recommends as a night mode. It keeps the fan quiet, but secondly, the heat a lot lower as well. If there's a problem with either the water heater or the heating, a red exclamation mark will appear. So if it's for the heating, it will appear here, and if it's for the water heater, it will appear here. If you then hold down the button, it will then get a series of red lights, and then within the manual, if you Google it, it will tell you what the problem is. If it's something relatively easy, what you will then need to do is reset the control panel. So if it's a red exclamation mark for the water heater, hold this button down first and then press the plus button at the same time. And if it's for the heating, hold the heating button down and then press the plus at the same time. If we now come down to the bench seat just here and remove the cushions, and we now raise up, we have storage. Also in here we have the gel leisure battery. We also have in here the solenoid for the whale water filling system, and we have the pressure switch just here for the water pump. If you find that the pump is overrunning a lot, you can slightly adjust it. Do not twist it fast, it's only very fine movements on this. Here we have the consumer unit. So we have the trip switches, so we've got the individual MCBs just here, and then we have the main RCD and test button. These are labelled up and correspond in the Auto Sleeper handbook. So if something's not working on main supply, just check to see whether or not you've tripped here. We then have the 12 volt fuses just here. Again, they are all numbered up and correspond in the Auto Sleeper handbook. Along the top here we have 2 isolator switches. These are for components that use main supply. So we have the orange one here for the whale heating and hot water system. If I did press this and turn it off and then try to fire either the heating or the hot water up on main supply, we would get a red exclamation mark until we turn this back on again and then reset it. The green one is for the battery charger. Obviously if we turn this one off, we will not be able to charge up the leisure or the vehicle battery from the main supply. This one here will illuminate in red if we have reverse polarity connected to the van, which you can sometimes get on some continental sites. We then have full system shutdown just here, so if you're planning on not using the motorhome for a period of time, you can press this just here and it will kill any residual draw on the leisure battery. A few more fuses just here, and these are mainly for components on the outside of the van like marker lights, etc., or if you had a tow bar fitted, and also for the feed from the vehicle battery to the fridge for 12 volt maintained for when you're driving. The freestanding table is just located above the cab area, just here. We then have the wardrobe that contains the smaller table and the table pole, which drops in to the hole just there. The Thetford fridge turns on just here. This is an automatic model, so if I now select A for auto, it will find the best power source it can. So because we're currently hooked up to main supply, let's put us onto mains with a little picture of the 2-pin plug. If I went outside now and pulled the mains lead out, it would then automatically attempt to fire itself up onto gas. And as soon as we start the engine of the van, it will then automatically switch itself over to 12 volt maintain to keep itself cold whilst on the move. As you can see, the screen goes dark again, so it's not annoying you at night time. All we do is we just tap the on off button and it will re-illuminate. So we could take it out of auto and manually put it onto mains. We can manually put it onto 12 volt maintain. As you can see, we've got a red light and an error code at the moment because the engine's currently not running. And we can manually put it onto gas. Temperature control just here. And then we have the fridge and freezer compartment above. Venting arm just here for when we are not using it. And then back off again by holding it in. Extra work surface just here. We then have the microwave just here. Isolator switch is just up the top. Do make sure that the contents are removed for travel. This will work when we're hooked up to the main supply. We have quick start and stop just here and here. We then have power settings, wait time, defrost, etc. Hob. So we have 3 gas burners and it's just push in, twist and push the igniter. Beneath it we have the oven and grill. Push in to the left for the oven. And push in to the right for the grill. Again, storage beneath. We then have storage beneath the sink and cutlery drawer. Plate rack. Above my head just here we have the Omnivent Fan. To raise the roof vent, just wind it is then middle button to turn the unit on, and then we have arrows out for extraction, arrows in for cooling in its variable fan speed by pressing. Do make sure that the roof vents are down for travel. We then have the toilet. So we've got the basin just here, shower just there. and then the cassette toilet. So to open to the cassette, just slide the grey lever across, push to flush just here. Level indicator for the cassette just down here. It will rotate round to red when it needs emptying. Close back up to the cassette. Again, if it's been left open and you try to remove the cassette from the outside, it will not come out. So if you feel resistance, just make sure that it's been closed. Extractor fan switch just here. Again, we have more storage and the vanity mirror just there. Up the top we have the digital amplifier for the max view television aerial, on and off just underneath. Control the gain just here. Also in here we have the Huawei mobile Wi-Fi, on and off just here. Before use, you do need to insert the SIM card that is supplied in the book pack. Once you've done this, you then just need to turn on your Wi-Fi on your smartphone or tablet, search for it, go into it, pay the subscription, and then you have mobile Wi-Fi. To make the beds up, we can either have 2 singles or a double. If we're going to have singles, we rotate the passenger seat as we have done at the moment. We can then push down and then literally slide the seat out like so. If we then drop the cushions into place, and as you can see, we have the single bed. We do not use the actual passenger seat, but having it rotated round just keeps it out of the way and gives you more space. For the other single bed, we just need this infill just here. Make sure that you have slid the driver's seat as far forward as you can, and then we take this and we just pop it into this point just here, and then once it's slotted into place, we can then remove the back cushion, and then we have the other single bed. If we are going to have a double, we need to slide this section out just here. So once you've slid out, literally get your back rest cushion and pop it in just here, and then get your 2 infills and then drop them into the gaps just here. And then we have a very large double bed. Storage beneath this section just here. There is also some storage underneath the passenger seat, and we have bottle storage just here.